Our two participants today, I'm not saying bullying victims, participants, Dr. Alice Thompson, who was the co-founder of Social Bite. Do you like that?
Yeah, it's funny.
Doctor. Thought you might. And Jane Bruce, who's the CEO at Social Bite. And really just to give you a little bit of information about both of them, and then we'll go on to them giving a bit of insight. I'll ask you a couple of questions, do some more questions, and then we'll open it up to questions from all of you. I think Alice saying that your journey to creating Social Bite was bold, unpredictable, refreshing. You've taken the idea of Social Bite and you've used it to transform lives of people within the homeless community. You've addressed the social challenges, but I think you've probably made all of us think differently about homelessness and it not being something that's remote from us. So you've made us sort of face up and confront that. By starting out one cafe in Edinburgh, you now have a national cafe chain. You serve the business community, but you employ and you feed and you support the people without homes. You're a registered charity, and I'm going to say your mission is to end homelessness, and you're now pioneering all sorts of innovative housing policies in partnership with the Scottish Government, which has been great to see that recognised, and your funding works to the tune of about £4 million, and you do have unique experience of harnessing the power of business and directing it towards one of society's toughest and almost intractable problems that I worked in for government and housing related stuff 30 years ago, and it's awful to see, despite the amount of money that's gone into it, that some of the problems really have not been tackled or addressed. You've got an honorary doctorate from Queen Margaret University because that's your significant contribution to public service. But it was also the same university that Alice dropped out of at 19 to pursue this career and this course of action. So I think it was a very smart move on theirs to recognise you in that way. Jane uses their skills to support people who've had tough times and help them build happy and healthy lives. Is probably a good description. You like informal, unconventional approaches.
You'd have to, wouldn't you?
to people and organisational development, and so that really means working alongside Josh and Alice to lead Social Bite in Scotland and looking how to deliver maximum benefit to people affected by homelessness. Jane was previously the director of Accenture Scotland, which delivering on wilderness-based programmes for personal development and volunteering for vulnerable young people. You're also a Clore Social Fellow and a trustee at the Melting Pot, which is around supporting social innovation. So I think we've got two extremely interesting case studies in front of us, and I'm going to kick off really by asking Alice just to spend a few minutes explaining how Social Bite got started and the impact that it's made.
Okay, so that's like an hour-long question, but I'll surmise. So Social Bite really got started because Josh and I were running an events company together. We were both like really younger. He was 23 and I was 19 when we met, and Josh was wanting to do some big events. So he was just putting the word Scotland in front of a lot of stuff, and Scottish, so like the Scottish Business Awards and stuff like this. And yeah, we wanted to have a really kind of rebellious, idealistic keynote speaker at the first ever Scottish Business Awards, which again, we just called it that and hoped that people would think that it was the Scottish Business Awards, and they did. So yeah, it was in the hunt for that, and actually it was just as this was back when we didn't have people like Jane around, and stupid decisions were made regularly. So we would actually, we told everybody that we'd invited to come to the Scottish Business Awards or nominated for awards. We told them that Professor Mohammed Yunus, who's a Nobel Peace Prize winner, we told everyone that he is confirmed already to come and speak at the event. which he saw someone at his office. I mean, this is like communicating with someone in Bangladesh, like when they don't know who you are, and you know, this was like 9 years ago, 10 years ago. So yeah, somebody at some point had said, yeah, he'll do that date, and we'd gone, well, affirmative. And Josh and I think we should just, you know, print the stuff and send it out to everyone, because the keynote speaker is going to be really the pull for this event. And in the end, a couple months down the line, without getting a signed contract back, and a few more phone calls, Josh and I would call the office like every other day, trying to get hold of somebody who spoke a bit of English and could tell us what was going on. And eventually we got a really savvy person on the phone who was like, look, this guy has a global calendar booked 2 years in advance. If you want him to come and speak at your event, you're really going to have to like come to Bangladesh and meet with him, because he's very, very busy. And he's only in Bangladesh like 4 days this year, and those 4 days are like in 2 weeks' time or something crazy like that. So we had just avoided bankruptcy at the point by pulling off our second event, which was more successful than the first, which was almost, a complete nightmare for our lives. And so we had a little bit of money in the bank, and we just booked tickets and immediately went to Bangladesh and met with him. And of course, the first thing he said is, I can't do that date. So we were on the other side of the planet to find out. But then what ensued was the week of experiencing social business and microfinance, which is another incredible thing. And that's why he won the Nobel Peace Prize, because he invented microfinance. And it was being there and seeing these projects and doing this thing in a developing country. I think both Josh and I were just a bit like, what are we doing? Like trying to like do some corporate event stuff. And the Business Awards was kind of a passion project, because it was also all for charity, and it became a really big catalyst for all the things that Social Bite had been able to do, and gave us a really good start in our business career bit. But things like we were doing Scotland ski and snowboard show, like neither of us give a toss about skiing or snowboarding, sorry to anyone who loves that. But trust me, the Scotland ski and snowboard show wasn't very exciting anyway. So yeah, that's how Social Bite was born. That was where the idea came from. It was the last night in Bangladesh that we decided this is what we should be spending our lives doing.
Wow.
Something like this.
And that was sort of 9-10 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay, and so Jane, having heard that was the kind of people you were going to work with, how did you get involved, and tell us a bit about your role?
So I got involved about 4.5 years ago. It was the start of 2014, and I came to just help out on a voluntary basis. I was doing the Close Social Leadership Programme actually, which is a UK development programme for social sector, voluntary sector, and so I had the opportunity to go and work somewhere for nothing for a bit, and I scouted around a few different organisations, but people kept on saying to me, you have to go and meet Josh. You have to go meet Josh, he's genuinely different. That was what a few people said to me, and it's interesting about how people react to an offer like that. A lot of people will never get back to you. Josh isn't one of those people. So he knows, like, has an appetite for free stuff, I think. But also he's very, very good at seeing an opportunity. So when somebody comes to you and says, well, I'll work for you for nothing for 3-4 months. Yeah, brilliant. So he was particularly keen to have me flog corporate catering, so this kind of stuff. So can you come and just batter the phones? Can you walk around Glasgow and just like make lists of all of the places where we could like try and flog our sandwiches?
This is still his like sales tactics for everything.
So I did a bit of that, and I did try and line up a bit of corporate platters, but after spending some time in the business, like one of the first things I did is I went to our production kitchen, where this food is made in Livingston, and that's where I first met Alice. And we spent, I spent the day there like grating carrots and just chatting to the staff about what was all going on at Social Bite, and experienced a bit firsthand the challenges of working with folk with complex needs in an industrial production kitchen. So I learned a lot from just getting to know the business, and it quite quickly, I think probably after the first week, I said, Josh, you really, really need help with what you're doing with homeless community. So to apply, I can easily apply my knowledge of working with disadvantaged young people who, many of whom had a background in homelessness from my previous role. I can give you that I can help you with this stuff. like it's difficult. Like you need to have apply a bit of thought to what you've already done, and we can make it really, really good. And so for me, the opportunity was you've got this business infrastructure of shops, vans, kitchen, all of that, and how can you put that to best use for people with, that don't have opportunity. So that was really where I thought about it. So I worked on a kind of voluntary basis for a bit as a trustee for Social Bite, and a freelance basis where we developed a bid for a big lottery fund for £500,000, which we were successful with, and that gave us the ability to employ really skilled staff and dot them around the business that have a background in counselling and working with homeless people specifically. So we have a team of 5 that's dotted around a social enterprise that does that, and that, obviously is a big help to Social Bite. And after a little while of doing that, probably not that long actually, so in amongst this I had my 2 small kids, and my son was about to start school. So I had more time that I could give to work, and I said to Josh, I think if I'm going to do more, I either need to do a lot more, or I need to not be involved. And he was like, well, just run everything then. That was pretty much the conversation. So that was about 2.5 years ago, I think. Yeah. So
it makes me so happy to listen to all this stuff. I really do love Social Bite so much.
But yeah, it's certainly not like a grand plan of mine to be doing this role. But I think the thing that kept me involved, aside from, I think for me it's very important that you're actually making a difference. Like that's the number one thing. Mm-hmm. And then the number 2 thing is always the people. So Social Bite has a lot of young people and Alice included. And that for me is just fun. Great fun, like enthusiasm, trying stuff, go for it. That's one of the joys of life, is like giving things a crack, isn't it? And also you're working with food, so that can be good fun.
Yeah.
Donut tasting,
Do you think the approach to social enterprise is different to the approach that you would have in any other business? You're talking about fun. We all obviously have fun in our own businesses, but is there a different approach rather than it being a traditional business?
I would say the reason Social Bite is, hopefully, there's no wood around.
Thinking your table might touch somewhere.
Wood. Hopefully that's, I think, why Social Bite's seen as being sort of what the leading, whether or not we are, I don't know, but I think we're sort of seen as being the leading social enterprise in Scotland because we've had celebrities and things around, and it makes us seem very prestigious and makes people think that you're very big and you have lots of staff, which is like, none of that's really true. But I think that the reason that we have that is because we don't think about business differently. And certainly my belief is that social enterprise should be ran like a business. And you should invest in good decisions that are going to bring you more money back, and you should get celebrities to do things for you because it's good for business. And so I think I think the approach to business at Social Bite is a very business approach. But obviously the decision, the bottom line is different. That's what I would say.
I think there was a report that came out today that showed the impact of social enterprises now on the economy is tangible and significant. Do you think it's a mistake if we weren't to see social enterprise as a business enterprise and try and sort of link run-of-the-mill normal business with social enterprise more often?
I think there's just massive opportunities. The way the world's moving, what you see happening is obviously bigger companies, corporations becoming more socially minded all the time and kind of moving into that space. That's definitely happening. And then there is much more interest in social enterprise, and so I think there's this explosion, particularly amongst younger people, to want to run socially minded businesses. So I think that's just where the world is moving. So I think the challenge with social enterprises and charities, but particularly social enterprises, is around scale. So it's scaling models that still have this inbuilt inefficiency. So if you think about our own business, we give away lots of food and we employ folk that you, to be quite frank, you wouldn't necessarily necessarily give a job to in normal circumstances, because they might often be slower, more unreliable, and absorb time from your business. So it's almost, those aspects are inherently non-commercial, so you have to, as an organisation, be able to absorb that. But so the way I think about it is the other aspects therefore have to be really sort of kick-ass, so you have to have very strong staff around that, and a commitment to the commercial side. And I think that's perhaps where Social Bite has a bit more expertise around the table, particularly at board level, to bring that to bear.
So how do you measure success when it's not just about revenues in and costs out?
Well, there's some things that are quite easy to measure success on, like the village. Was it like 7 people last month or a couple months ago moved out of the village and into permanent accommodation?
Do you want to just explain a bit about the village?
So for anybody that's not aware, we opened a Social Bite village a couple of years ago.
So it's been open for just over a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, feels like
it does, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that Sleep in the Park enabled. And that's basically a supported community where people who would have otherwise been living through homelessness are able to go and live for an unrestricted amount of time, however long they need, until they're able to take on permanent accommodation. But they have live-in support that's there 24/7, and they have all sorts of access to college courses and employment opportunities and things like this, so that it's kind of an alternative to the temporary accommodation model. So it's us saying, what happens when you do this differently, you put a lot of support around these people. And just a year then of having people in there, and 7 people have moved into permanent accommodation. So some things are really easy to measure like that. Other things are really hard because it's about people and it's about vulnerable people. And one of our big things the last couple of years has been, one of our strengths is always communicating people's stories. Like the public speaking that particularly Josh and I go and do is always, here's Joe, or like here's John, and it's somebody that we actually met who was street homeless in the first couple of years of business. And in some cases, like I had 2 of them come live with me, and we tell these people's stories, and that endears people into what we're doing, because people like people's stories. And when they realize, oh, this guy was actually homeless and now he's doing great because of this thing, so I'm going to invest in this thing. So for us, for Josh and I, that's very lucrative, because then we get donations and we're able to do these big events and make bigger impact. But at the same time, we're struggling with, actually that can be quite damaging for the individual, because you're saying, oh, they're finished, fixed, done, and then when they have something which inevitably, like anyone in any life ever, they're going to come up against struggles again. And when they do, and they've got these videos that are out of their faces saying how much their life has changed, and they've got people who they used to be friends with on the streets, heckling them as they walk past, oh, I thought your life was fixed. It can be very damaging for that person. So there's always this kind of difficulty with like, well, where do we kind of go, that's a success, and where do we go, we buggered up there?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I think, so when I first encountered Social Bite board, I remember the first board meeting I attended, like 95% of the chat was about sandwiches. Literally, and I was like, wow, this is interesting. Not what I would necessarily expect. So, and the chair at the time is a lovely guy called William Gorrell, who was our chair for a few years. And we had he left the board recently, and his last meeting, we had this brilliant session where we focused quite a lot on one of our big housing projects, which is Housing First. And he is very, very good at asking killer questions. So like he was like asking quite a few like heinous questions to folk that were presenting about like how the program's progressing, and why wasn't this happening, and could this happen better, and da 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 da. And we were joking about it afterwards, like, how good is that? Like how good that we've come from this position of chatting about sandwiches to then actually talking about, are we making a difference to people's lives here? Like to sort of see him kind of go on that journey personally, for me was like pretty cool.
He's a very business guy.
And super commercially minded. But one of the things we did about 18 months ago is we wrote our first ever strategy. So I was like, guys,
you wrote off it.
yeah, at some point we've got to write something down and like have a plan, right? At some point. So that was like 18 months ago, and what I encouraged the board to think about was having like a sort of my version of a balanced scorecard. So we have 4 different aspects to it. So we're making a real difference. So we're not just making a difference superficially, we're making a real difference. Okay. We're also generating funds and awareness. So not just making money, but we also want awareness. It's really important for Social Right. We're making a brilliant place to work, and we're also working smarter, not harder. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we have KPIs against those 4 different areas, and a small number of, I think there's like 9 objectives altogether across those areas, so that you're not, I think even as a charity board, which Social Right is, the parent charity, there's a real tendency to think, oh, the bottom line. Like even at charities, this is generally what happens. So the board's attention will always be on that, and actually it has to be a more nuanced conversation, and that's just the nature of trying to change or help people to change their lives. Like that is a tricky thing to achieve, but you can't just do it through one lens because you're missing lots of different tricks if you do that.
So what's been the impact of Social Right on the ground for homeless people?
Oh, sorry, you asked me that at the beginning and I didn't answer.
It's alright.
Well, I think there's different levels. So the first thing that we started doing was, what was the first thing we started doing? I think it was feeding people. So I think that the fact that we're a high street cafe and we're sort of, next to Pret and Subway, I think the fact there's a dignified place for the homeless community to go and get food every day, I think that's one thing. And I think that's kind of, the dream was always that we would create this dynamic where there were professionals coming into the same cafe, that there were people who had no homes, and that this would make us a more connected society. This is like Josh and my very idealistic flying back from Bangladesh, scribbling things on paper thing. And I think hopefully we've been able to do some of that, and I think you were saying at the beginning about some of the things we've tried to do is trying to get people to think of homelessness not as this thing that we just walk past and it's furniture, like you're used to it being there, but recognizing that's a human being on the floor who has nothing, saying, "Have you got any change, please?" Because I'm I think just realizing the severity of that case rather than it's become so normal. But if you were sitting, imagine what it, if you're stranded somewhere and you don't have money to get a bus, and if you look like one of us and you got something, I'm really sorry, I just really messed up. People usually help you, but for some reason we look so differently at these people. So I think one of the things that we're hopefully doing is trying to sort of make a connection a bit with this element of society, but also trying to say it's not good enough. We're a small country, we can change it. These people don't have to live on the streets, these people don't have to live in completely insufficient temporary accommodation, and we can do better, so let's. So I think on a street level there's these shops and there's this place that people can come and eat and be dignified and connect with support workers who run these exclusive events for the homeless community as well each week in each city. But then there's also the kind of more long-term game that we're playing at the moment, which is about changing these housing policies and we're taking 830 people off the streets. When does that finish? In a year's time?
Yeah, just over.
So that there's only roughly 5,000 rough sleepers in Scotland on any given night. So that's almost a fifth of all rough sleeping in Scotland that we've cleared up with Sleep in the Park. So I think on a more long-term lens, we've got work in the Scottish Government. We've got hopefully respect and camaraderie from the rest of the charity sector in a way that we didn't before. And I think that the impact for the homeless community should be, if we, are doing what we're supposed to be doing, that they shouldn't be homeless. Certainly not in the worst situations of homelessness, not in a country like this. It's not good enough.
So you think the Social Bite model is the basis for that aspiration? You think it's achievable?
Yeah, definitely. 100% fact it's achievable to get rid of rough sleeping in Scotland. That's just totally doable. This housing policy that we're implementing is particularly targeted at rough sleeping, and they adopted it in Finland 20 years, and I think they're they've massively reduced their homelessness. I think they're a step away from declaring. Last article I read was like a couple months ago about Finland's model, maybe you know more recently. But what I read was that they were on the cusp of declaring like a no homelessness countrywide. So it is doable, and you know, we're not. We have plenty of money and plenty of minds. Yeah. So I think hopefully there's like a tangible effect for people who are experiencing homelessness right now. There's somewhere to come and get help, whether that's that you're coming into the shops or speaking to the support workers or staying at the village. There's some really tangible things going on. And the employment as well, of course, like, you know, we employ people as well and support them through that employment. But yeah, hopefully like on a bigger picture level, we're going to make a bigger difference as well.
Yeah, and I think like it's not underestimating the importance of that mindset. So that's what, you know, some countries, if you look at Finland, but if you look at you know, individual cities that have managed to put a real focus on this, it's like actually believing that it's possible, like completely changes the conversation. And if you, so with the Housing First programme that Alice mentioned, through getting that underway and starting to deliver that at some level of scale, you realise just how dysfunctional the current system really is. So once you're trying to do something differently, it helps you to see just how unhelpful what we have been doing and how that just eats up resources. So it's not necessarily about more and more cash, it's just about applying ourselves differently. And you know, one of my mantras was always like, stop doing stupid stuff. And like that is what you constantly see within the homelessness system, is there's just like, and particularly for someone who's not, I'm not like a housing homelessness expert, so you kind of encounter it and you're like, why is like that like that?
I think that's
like just really bizarre.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the strengths of Social Bite, is that like Josh and I didn't know anything about homelessness when we just started giving people food because people needed food, and then we started giving people jobs because we met Joe and Pete and they were right outside selling the big issue and it was really cold and we thought it'd be better if they were doing the dishes in the shop. And so I think that might be our ignorance at times has been our strength, because especially with Josh, he's got just a brilliant mind for just, he literally just thinks completely differently to everybody else. So he can be in a room with government officials talking about, well, that's when we put them in this temporary accommodation and that lasts for this long and then we tick this box, and Josh is like, but why? Like things that people haven't ever questioned, because you get a job, whether it's for the government or the council or a charity or a corporate, and you do your job. That Josh is somebody that would go, well, that doesn't make any sense, so we should turn that completely upside down and do it that way instead. And I think, yeah, Jane coming in and having these completely fresh eyes, I think that that's always been the strength of Social Bite. So hopefully that's how we'll achieve what we want to achieve.
Yeah, I think it's stopping thinking about homeless people at all, really, and thinking about people that are in a situation of homelessness and saying like, it's just a person. So like, if that was my mother or my brother or my child, like what would I want to happen? That's what I always think about. And I think that goes from like the real simplest act of, like, I've spent quite a lot of time serving tea and coffee to folk and chatting to them, and so it's having the mindset of like, how do I want to serve this tea as if this was my own mother. That's what I think about, because I think that's what we should be doing. And so when we're employing staff, that's what I look for. So we absolutely should have that genuine care for each individual, and believe in people's potential. We've got this really weird, bizarre way of writing people off and going, well, they're just like, you know, some jakey or whatever we call it. Like, you know, it's like, come on, people, like, it's just a person. It realistically could be your own mother, or you know, for in some situations. So I think, you know, that ethos of valuing each individual and really believing in that, like, that is powerful if we can really connect with that idea.
Absolutely. So for those of us in the other business world, apart from money, which I'm sure you're always interested in having, how can we engage with a social enterprise as our normal businesses?
I mean, it's a really obvious answer, but just using their services instead of other corporates. Like that's just the best way you can support any social enterprise. Like buying your lunch from us that is the best way to support us. And yeah, that sounds like money again, but
you do get sandwiches.
You do get sandwiches. Exchanges of service.
Sandwiches anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. But any social enterprise, you know, like we're really lucky that we've just been given this space and we've just moved into a new office, and we're starting to look at like, right, what stuff can we be getting from other social enterprises, and like talking about toilet roll and stuff, like, oh, there's a toilet roll company that are trying to save the Amazon, like, let's use them. So, you know, it's stuff like that.
I know cleaners, it's a social enterprise.
Yeah, the cleaners are, I just found that out yesterday.
Yeah, so because there is this growth in social enterprise, like, you will see more of it around, and I think it's just, I mean, we've been a growing business with the catering as well, and, you know, of course there's been like spectacular screw-ups and mistakes that we've made along the way, and one of the ways that some companies, and some large companies as well, have really helped us is by sticking with us, like, they've stuck with us when we have made errors, and they've helped to make our products better and our service better, and that's been really important.
So we've only had that luxury because of things like the Scottish Business Awards and how well connected Josh and I were made very early on. Like when we did the Scottish Business Awards, you know, we'd been to other awards ceremonies, and I'm sure everybody in here has been to, like, there's so many like very niche award ceremonies, and I think we were really passionate that this was going to be the elite business crew of Scotland, and that, you know, put us on a platform very quickly. So when we did mess up, we would like phone chairmans and CEOs, you know, like, we really messed up, we really need to keep using us because we don't have any money to pay everyone next week if you don't. And this was done the first few years that we were in a position to do that, but other social enterprises that, you know, they might make mistakes and things, but we do improve and get better, and the social enterprise industry is getting more and more professional every year that goes by. So maybe like bearing with them as well, like you don't want to treat them as charity because they do need to be business, but constant feedback, but then keeping on like championing them and wanting to use them.
I think the numbers that came out today justify and prove that it is a growing market.
Definitely.
In terms of sort of young talent who come into business, is it a real alternative for them to consider a career in a social enterprise?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is an alternative. I think to do what yourself and Josh did, it's spectacularly hard. You know, it is hard. There's plenty of people out there that would like to found a business, any business, and that in itself is like massively tough. So that's going to be the minority that manage that. But I think to work within that world, there will be increasing opportunities, and I take great pleasure in stealing people from elsewhere and converting them to working at Social Bite. Yeah.
And could it be that you borrow them from the business community
as
and
well.
there's more of a partnership
as well,
to get this sort of cross
Definitely.
traffic between the two?
Absolutely. I mean, we've done that. So we had a secondee from Aberdeen Standard Life fairly recently, and also board membership. I mean, that's the other thing I would say to folk, like, if you want to contribute, board membership is an amazing way to learn about charity social enterprise. So we have 3 different boards at Social Bite: parent charity, one for the main Social Bite limited enterprise, one for our restaurant enterprise. So yeah, there's lots of board seats around, and it's a great. But we would. I think without that guidance that we've had there, it's absolutely fundamental. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So one last question before I let everyone else ask: where next for Social Bite?
Well, I'm going to promote my thing.
Yeah, you should promote your thing because it's awesome. Yeah.
Well, my next thing for Social Bite is this thing called We Sleep Out. So I don't know how many people are aware of it, but after Sleep in the Park, we had some young people who were getting in touch, and they were really sad they couldn't come because it felt like a big party, and it felt like helping homeless people, and little people are very compassionate. So yeah, we just kind of realised that Jay and I think we chatted one day, and you were saying, oh yeah, and there was this woman on the night of Sleep in the Park who took her kids out to the woods, and they were like, well, we're just going to do Sleep in the Park, but out here. And we're like, yeah, there's something in this. So we developed the We Sleep Out last year, and it's the little sleep out, it's the We Sleep Out for wee ones, but it's also We Sleep Out, like we band together for the older ones, for teenagers and things. So it's like the under 18s Social Bite outreach. So the idea is they put on their own sleep out, but myself and 2 other wonderful girls help me to deliver workshops in schools and youth groups around Scotland. And we talk about homelessness and how to change the system, and social enterprise in general. We ask them, like, what social issues do they care about, and how might they design a social enterprise around that. And then we do a little event planning session at the end, like, okay, if you're going to put on your own We Sleep Out, how are we going to do that? So we help them, and then we're on the other end of emails and phone calls to them, like every step of the way, like literally trying to convince like council members to let the school open for the night. Like I'm writing emails about that right now. So we really help them along the way, and they put on their sleep out events all over Scotland on the same night. So last year we launched that, and we had 5,000 young people take part, but we just had about like 2 to 2.5 months to actually run the thing. So that was really amazing to have all these young people come out of the woodwork in just such a short time frame. And this year we launched a week ago, and we're a little bit better prepared, and we know what it looks like a bit more this year, but I'm still just trying to like figure out all the best bits that we should be having and all of that stuff. So we've got like just over like 1,000 sign-ups after the first week right now, so I think we'll do better than last year. But if any of you have kids or know people who have kids, please get involved in the We Sleep Out. And actually David at the end here was very involved last year with his amazing daughter Libby, who put on the Borders We Sleep Out, and we did that at the BUAS showground. Is that the right letters I used there? Yeah, exactly. So I came down and visited on the night and spoke to the kids, and yeah, and it was really fun. So that's the next thing for me, is I'm really passionate about that. I'm watching that grow at the moment, and I freaking don't know what's happening after next month. Like, I'm just taking it as it comes at the moment.
I think you've probably lived about 5 lives already in a very short space of time. Can I just invite any questions from those round the table? If you want to say who you are and where you're from, or just even who you are, and ask away.